Don't let mosquitoes ruin your day. Fight the bite by removing standing water on your property. Standing water of any kind is a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Do your part and help reduce the mosquito population. Visit hcfl.gov/fightthebite.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Hillsborough County Charter Review Board. Today is Tuesday, April the 8th. The agenda has been distributed, so I'm going to follow down from there. Would you like to do a invocation, Mr. Coons? Yeah, that would be nice. I'd appreciate it if you begin with that.
Absolutely. As we know, in the next couple of weeks, many people will be celebrating Easter. And beginning this Friday is Passover, Hag Pesach Sameach to our Jewish friends. And during that time, God intervened in our world in both of those events, both of those celebrations, and changed the direction of the future, answering his promises that he had given to his people. And we're asking for the same thing this evening. Let's pray together. Father, Lord Almighty, our Lord, our Sovereign, our King, our Creator, thank you for this evening. Thank you for the privilege that you've given us to serve. We pray, Father, that you would once again intervene and that you would speak to our hearts, that you would grant us wisdom from on high, that we would humbly seek your best, and that you would just speak to and through us. Father, we commit this time to you. We pray your blessings on the families here, our county, and that, again, that you would give us wisdom. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Coons. If we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, it's exciting. One of the exciting things is we have our first public comment tonight. So, you got to do everything for the first time. And I think it was someone that was interested in doing it, calling in. So do we have a connection to that person yet?
Yes,
Hi,
I don't know.
are you with us? Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Oh, well, thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
I'm not sure we're going to be able to see you. We're going to work on that. but let me welcome you. This is recorded, so if you would, for the record, give us your name and address. And you do have 3 minutes to make your remarks. Yeah.
Okay.
You can begin
My
anytime
name
you'd
is
like.
All right, thank you. My name is Deborah Owens. My address is 2712 Clark Road, 33618. I have 3 comments. The first is the March 11 minutes noted the possibility of a county mayor. This sounds like an elected position. I would not support such a position. An elected official would likely cease to be under the supervision of the Board of County Commissioners. We do not need more elected officials, another layer of authority, and certainly not one that might supplant the county commission. The current county administrator position, established in 1983, should be retained, in my opinion. And then the next thing I wanted to address is this totality of Section 4. Again, in my opinion, an annual audit produced by the county auditor should be specifically required somewhere in Section 4. That is, I recommend that a specific month should be specified when that report should be made available. I would like to see such a report. Therefore, I would need to know when it is made available to the public. And finally, Section 9.09, the planning section. To my mind, this section is profoundly problematic because as it is written, it contradicts 1.01, 1.02, 2.01, and 4.09. 9.09, as written, provides for a governmental entity that does not appear to be under the supervision of the Board of County Commissioners, nor the county's executive arm, the county administrator. Per 5.02, there should only be 10 divisions under the county's executive division. 9.09 creates a rogue department under no one's authority. It should be placed squarely under the county administrator and thus subject to the Board of County Commissioners and county and municipal law. And I'm going to throw this in. The same goes for 9.10, the Environmental Commission. To my mind, both of these are rogue executive departments not provided for in the original charter. And the original charter actually reads very nicely. It's simple, straightforward, to the point.
Thank you.
And so now we're creating two new sections?
You're out of time. Would you please give us any concluding remarks you'd like to make?
No, these are just my opinions and observations having read the charter today. Thank you for the time.
And I can advise you that the way we've organized it, many of these topics will be coming up during the year. So I'm going to invite you to call back when you see that specific topic on the agenda. The agenda will be published on the county page, and you'll be able to see when we're talking about it. You may wish to call back at that point, and your input would be more spot on if we're talking about that topic at that meeting, and you're giving us your input at that meeting. So, but thank you for calling tonight. I appreciate it, Mrs. Owens. Have a good night. Yeah. Is you off the air? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone that wished to speak that indicated here tonight wish to speak? We have a speaker sign-up sheet? Okay, there were none. All right, we'll move on to the agenda now. We have minutes. Yay, February and for March. They have been distributed. Are there any corrections to make or changes, or can we adopt the minutes as they've been distributed? Okay. Would someone like to make the motion to accept them as distributed?
Move approval of the minutes as distributed.
Okay, I have a motion from Ms. Holt. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second over here. Thank you. I'll call, any discussion of the motion? We're all voting for the approve the minutes? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. In the minutes, there was some things, and I think Dr. Collins pointed out that we wanted pulled for discussion at our meeting tonight. So let's get into those. The two of them were the meeting frequency discussion. We did have a talk about that, and the plan is to have monthly meetings. I've reviewed the staff based on, with the staff based on last month's meeting, in which we indicated what we're going to be talking about. And I'm confident that we can meet all the topics within just a monthly meeting schedule. And we'll know more when we get, of course, about 3/4 of the way through. But it looks like everything should be done with just a monthly meeting schedule. So is there any further discussion on that topic? Yeah. Okay, seeing none. Prior reports discussion. We were asked to distribute the prior 3 years, and they have been distributed, I guess, more than a month ago. And it's kind of, I was on the last two, of course, and I think Mr. White's been on two of these three, and I believe Beth has been on 2 of these 3, maybe 1. I don't know. So we have some internal and expertise on these. So would anyone like to discuss these prior reports at all? Yeah. I know they were distributed as a resource. Yeah. Mr. White?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the only thing I would like to mention related to the executive summaries of the charter review boards. I've served on 4 charter review boards. This makes my 5th charter review board. They're held, of course, once every 5 years. And I guess I haven't heard anything about the budget of this particular charter review board of 2025. And I'd just like to know, did the county commission allocate any funds for this board to conduct this business?
I've not made a request, and I don't know if they've indicated anything in the budget itself. No, sir, nothing yet. Yeah. I wouldn't hesitate to ask them if a need came up. You know, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't know if it was done by, I guess I need to look at them a little bit closer. I'm not sure it was by way of a request of the chair or by the wishes of the board. And the reason I bring that up is that they just had like a county fair where all the citizens went to a county open house. And historically, when the charter review board's in session, usually have a table, usually have brochures, usually have information to educate the public about what's going on with the charter review board. And I know individual commissioners have town hall meetings. And in those town hall meetings, I know in the past, I have gone and sat at a table and passed out the charter and allowed citizens to learn a bit about what was going on with the charter review board. And I was just wondering, you know, what, and I know we got some information on communication, but sometimes this stuff costs a little bit of money, and you need to have money in the bank already in order to do some of these things and have brochures and have the public, so we could pass out to the public at some of these community events. Hopefully we attend some of them. As individual board members and as a group, we decide to go to some of these meetings and educate the public on these county commissioners' town hall meetings. And you need money for that, Mr. Chairman.
I am confident that we can request the money and it'll be obtained for us. So I think it's just a matter now of finding what events we might want to go to and if it costs. And we'll when the occasion comes up, I'll make the request. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for pointing out. Not every charter review board spent money every year. Yeah, there wasn't any spent 2 years ago or.
I think you was tight last time, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
You was pretty tight.
Pardon?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah, money's tight. Yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. They are. It was interesting reading to go through these because you can see some of the topics are the same, some of the people are the same, but it's just interesting how they was approached differently. So, any further discussion of the prior reports? All right, thank you. Let's get into the discussion of the memorandum from the County Communications Department. Where do we find that in our notebooks, Beth? Yeah,
It's under meeting materials.
okay.
It's the third tab.
It's this one-page document, correct? Is there anyone that would like to present it, or do we just, should we read it ourselves? Is there anyone, there's no one here to present it, correct? Correct, the one-page memorandum dated March 28th?
Can you have her just read it into the record for the public? Folks that are watching at home, if that's possible? The memorandum?
You mean a verbatim reading?
Yes.
Sure. Beth, would you like to read this in? Yeah.
Sure thing. So the memorandum, it's dated March 28th, 2025. It's addressed to me as your staff, and it's from Terry Cordova Hewitt, the Communications and Digital Media Director, regarding Charter Review Board. And it states, as you are aware, Hillsborough County has established numerous boards and committees that provide opportunities for local leaders, residents, and professionals to directly participate in local government and make positive impacts on the community. Because resources are limited, the Communications and Digital Media Department generally does not provide collateral, news releases, promotion, or event planning for individual boards and/or committees unless those activities are part of a responsibility delegated directly to CDM, which is Communications and Digital Media, by the Board of County Commissioners. Examples of this include the presentation of board-established awards and recognitions, such as the Wade Boggs Award, Women's Hall of Fame, and Good Government Award. Additional, CDM, Communications and Digital Media, supports the Charter Review Board through a news release and a directional video at the commencement of the review period. CDM has plans to launch monthly county meeting information on the county's Facebook social channel on a recurring basis, providing a direct link to the charter calendar. The CRB meetings are included in this effort, exceeding the scope of the services we are staffed to provide. In addition to the tactics described above, CDM provides ongoing support to the CRB through its digital team, ensuring maintenance of the CRB webpage, posting of the meetings on the official online county calendar, and posting the meeting material on the county site. This work ensures there is public notice in compliance with state law. CRB members are encouraged to share information and links to the site to amplify the meeting notification. And it's CC'd with Liana Lopez, the Communications Administrator, Mary Helen Ferris, Deputy County Attorney, General Counsel, and Brandon Wagner, Chief Government Relations and Strategic Services Administrator.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I don't have a copy of that in my meeting materials. Could I
It's not
please?
behind your
It is not.
materials tab? Okay.
Not that I can find. Yep, I'm looking at it. I've been through it 6 times now. Okay, thank you.
And then the county attorney's report is right after it, too, when we get to that section. That starts right there.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mr. White.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thanks the communication folks for this communication. I guess my concern, historically, if you go back and look, you can't even look at the former websites, but there was a website that was established for the Charter Review Board, and one side of the charter page, you had all the agendas of the meetings. On the second side of that page, you had all the minutes of the meeting. And I can't recall whether or not all the documents that were passed out at the meeting was on this site. So citizens only had to go one place and click, and they saw what was going on with the Charter Review Board. I tried to look several times for our previous meetings already. I can't find anything. Got some sort of link.
It's out there. I looked at it today.
I mean, I pulled up the Charter Review Board webpage, and I didn't see anything on it. And that's what I would like to see. I would like a one-stop shop for citizens to see the agenda and to see the minutes of the work of this board. That's digital, right? So that's something that they can do.
Well, I went out there and clicked on Charter Review Board, and I got the information that you're talking about under hcfl.gov. you find Charter Review Board, and you click on it, and you find agendas, you find previous minutes, so.
Okay.
And there's videos too, right?
Is
Yeah.
it? All right. I couldn't find it.
Sure.
Very good. I just want to make sure that is done and it's accessible. 'Cause
Yeah.
I've tried looking twice and I still haven't been able to find it.
Well, you know, the challenge is the county's got such a big website, it took a little figuring to, even for me today to find it, but it wasn't that difficult, so I think the public won't have any challenges with it. And Beth posts her number out there prominently too, so people can call in directly to her if they want to find anything or have a question, yeah, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Just-
Oh, Chris Ann?
yes, sir.
Thank you, please.
Just maybe as a help, I just simply went to Google and typed in Hillsborough County Charter Review Board, and the first link that came up was where you find all that information.
Yeah, Google is the best darn thing. Should have
That's
bought stock in
debatable.
it when it first came out, I know, yeah. Thank you, appreciate the tip, yeah.
Okay, just clarify now, before we leave this subject.
Sure,
Now, this what I looked at, but I didn't see the minutes, and I don't see the agenda on here. It just lists who we are, and it cites the site, but in the information that takes place in our meeting, it's not on here.
I saw them today myself, so I knew they
You
were
have to
there.
click through the links. They can't possibly put everything on one page. So there is,
Okay, that's what I would like to see. Why do citizens got to go through all these links to get to something? You don't have to do it on the county commissioner's page. You just click once and you got the agenda.
if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a little calendar, and then you click on the date. Just like the Hillsborough County Commissioner's page. You click on the date, it immediately pulls up the agenda.
Okay,
It pulls up even the link, which is better than the Hillsborough County Commissioners. Right there on the page, it pulls up the link to tell you how to do a comment. The Hillsborough County Commissioners, you have to go to a separate page to find the link. So our page is actually better than theirs.
okay, I'll play with it tonight. Thank you.
Sure, we're open for suggestions, so if you want to bring that back next month, we can discuss it further after you've looked at it.
Long as we can get to stuff quickly. Thank you.
I think, yeah. All right. Any other discussions on the Communications Department memorandum? Yeah. All right. The next item of business, item 7, is a section, is the first of the charter sections, 201 and 901. The information was provided to you this afternoon, but Chris Ann, and I'm so delighted she's on here because she's our constitutional expert, put together a really professional document. And I don't feel like you all can digest it within the next half hour and pass a judgment on it. So I'd like to defer that item until next month and let all of you have a chance to read it and digest it.
May
Is that okay, Ms. Hall?
May I
Yeah.
make a comment
Yes,
first, please?
please.
So I do want to apologize to the board. I didn't realize that what I was doing would have delayed the topic, so I just wanted to put on the record, I'm not here to waste anybody's time.
Thank you.
What I presented, my problem is that I misunderstood what was meant by submitting material for consideration. I didn't put anything in that packet that was new. It's basically just a transcript of what I would be giving in my presentation today. Had I known that that was going to be viewed as new material, I would have brought it up earlier. But since I was just giving you the information that I was about to present as a guide to help you follow along with what I was going to say, I didn't interpret that as being new material, like charts and data and all that kind of stuff. So I do apologize. Again, I didn't mean to waste anybody's time, and we will, obviously, if the board decides to take this up next month.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. White,
Well, if she's prepared to present it, we don't have to take any action on it, Mr. Chairman, but it'd be great to get this particular session, let her make her presentation, and we could take it in, and we got the hard document to study.
I don't agree, Mr. White, because when we bring up an item, we're going to be voting on whether we want to make a charter change or not. So there's no point in having this on 2 meeting agendas, Go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
That's why actually I asked last meeting to understand process-wise what we are,
Right,
what we're gonna be doing, because, you know, this is a lot of meat to it, and obviously we wanna give it its, you know, look at it and make sure that we, you know, are able to give it enough time. We also know that there are other items that are gonna be discussed, so I also still want to know all the various different things that this body is going to consider, so that way we can make a better informed decision of what items, like how many we want to put on the ballot, what are those going to be. So that's why I was curious, like, I was a little maybe not prepared to opine on all these presentations just yet, because I know we have so many more out there.
Okay.
So more of a statement.
Okay. Yeah, well, okay, let me recognize Beth.
Yeah, and just in keeping with what Jim is saying, I like noodle time as well. Now, I stopped and read it today. I had that luxury, and I had to read it 3 times, but I did spend time on it. But that noodling time is important to me as well. I don't want to just do fly by the seat of my pants
Yeah.
either. So I think on some of the complexities we
Yeah.
may need a little time.
Karen, Josh? You had the red.
And red, okay, sorry, they're different from
Yeah,
what
you
I
gotta
used
go
to.
red.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see a whole lot on the agenda. I don't see a problem with hearing it, realizing that we wouldn't be making any decision on it, maybe having the discussion, and then tabling any action that we might take to the next meeting.
Well, it's the pleasure of the board, pleasure of the group. Ms. Hall?
Just for a point of clarity, I think maybe I don't understand how this is working, because I don't know that as a person who likes to noodle time, to steal your phrase, are we expected to vote on the same day that we are presented with the information?
You're going to be asked to vote. If you're able, we'll conduct a vote. If you're not able, we'll defer it for further discussion. But we do have to vote, and it takes a supermajority of our group to make a charter change. So after the presentation, I'll be asking, are you ready to make a vote? And we'll see if we have a supermajority or we don't, and we're done with the topic. Yeah.
And I think, just to, again, I think that's part of where the gray is of process-wise. So again, we come in with proper, you know, expectations. I had a crazy day and I wasn't able to look at the documents yet. You know, but again, having clarity of, you know, receiving presentation A, presentation B, you know, and being okay with, okay, we know what those suggestions are. We also know that there's presentation C, D, E out there as well. You know, and so I think maybe confirming what that process is, I'm okay with receiving information and then noodling on it. Knowing, again, we're going to get a slew of other presentations that have a lot of data points and a lot of stuff to ruminate so that we can make the best sound decision.
Right.
If we make a collective decision to put 1, 2, 3, 4, or 0 items before the voters.
Right. Dr. Collins?
Yeah, I somewhat agree with that because I can read it and then I can go over it again and try to be analytical of what I've read. But I think if the individual who's presenting have the intent that we can discuss it here, I think we can receive it in a vote and go ahead and indicate that we're going to file this to come back. But I don't want to think that every time there's a presentation that we have to vote on it and say it's moving forward towards charter review. I would, since I haven't read it, it would be great for me if we went through it and had the presenter go through and put some emphasis, and then we can receive this as a document and then come back. But whoever might have something to submit, I think I would benefit from your explanation of it first. And not just yours tonight, But I think as we go through this, I think we need to be able to listen and then determine whether we're going to actually send it straight forward or we're going to receive it and bring it back for additional. And then I agree with you, Mr. Chair. It is a vote, but it's not a vote to take it straight towards charter review, modification and changes.
I'd like to agree with that. If she's ready to present, I think a lot of us sound like we're ready to hear. And then, I mean, it's 3 reads. I got a chance for 1 read. It's, you know, it's something to think about. There's a lot to think about in there. So, I mean, I would agree with hearing it and giving it a minute to cook in the crock pot of our brains.
Sounds good. Ms. Mandel?
Yes, I did want to just make a comment, because first of all, let me just indicate I am not Mary Helen Ferris, so I'm here pitch hitting for her. She is at the Plant City elections tonight. We did obviously all receive this, you know, later in the day today, so really she hasn't had a chance to look at it. I haven't really had a chance to look at it and determine whether or not this is something that even is legally sufficient to go forward. That's not to say whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea. I'm just saying from a legal sufficiency, and in my very quick review, there are a lot of issues that do lend itself to a legal review. So, you know, whether or not you want to move forward with it tonight or you want to wait and do it from a legal perspective, we're not prepared right now to make any comments as to the legal sufficiency of what is being suggested. And I'll reserve any additional comments for afterwards, just as I hear the conversation, if there's something that comes up that does have some need for comment. But I did want to let you know that we really haven't had a chance to review it, and it's a pretty hefty document, so.
Could I make one comment, please?
Yes, Ms. Hall.
So that brings up my point of clarification on future presentations. If I would suggest we're discussing amending the county charter. Everything we discuss is going to be legally hefty. Everything that we discuss is going to have great concern. So I would like to know, for the record, what is the requirement for making a presentation? Because if I had come to make the presentation today, but not handed out a transcript of my presentation, it wouldn't have been viewed that I was giving you material to review, and I would have been allowed to, without question, give my presentation. It wouldn't have reduced the heftiness or the weight in the matters that we were going to be given. It was actually, the preparation was to give you something to look at while I was presenting. So the question becomes, if we are making amendment proposals, and this is just in the future, I'm trying to learn, and people just stand up without giving us material to look at and to review before the presentation or even during the presentation as we can walk through it, it seems to be a disadvantage. And that's where I say that I'm not sure I could vote in favor of an amendment in any way, shape, or form without having something in writing to review before. So there needs to be some, as Mr. Taylor said, some kind of procedure set that if we're going to have an amendment presented, that there needs to be something sent to the board in writing beforehand so we can look and review it, and it's not brand new the minute we hear it, the day we're supposed to be voting on it. Because it seems to me like at that point, every single amendment is going to be tabled to the next meeting, so we'll have time to review it.
And Mr. Chair, I looked through the documents in our notebook, and I couldn't come up with any kind of rule, which is probably what we need here, on when proposals such as this or amendment language is submitted by one of the members of this board. How many days, weeks, or whatever the rule is in advance does it have to be submitted to the rest of the board before it can be A, considered, B, discussed, C, voted on?
Sure. We talked about that last month. Let's use this as an example. that material you prepared, if it had been given to Beth, but when she mails the packet, which I think is a week before, so you want a few days before that to do the copying and all that, okay? We all get it, we read it, we come to the meeting and discuss it, okay? It implies that there's going to be a charter change because you've got language there, this is what the new charter should be. When we've had a sufficient discussion, and that could be extensive, we could ask for a third-party lawyer to rule on it, or another report from staff or somebody. So we don't have to make a decision at that meeting, but if it's fully presented and we've got everything we've done, I'm going to ask for a vote. Do we want to make a charter change on this with this material? You know, and again, it takes a supermajority. So there probably aren't going to be too many charter changes because it takes a supermajority to get it across. So there's a high hurdle. So if this had gone, we would have had your material to read. We would be discussing it at this point tonight. I would ask at the end of the discussion, is there sufficiency here to render a vote on whether we make a charter change of this? Some people would have said, no, I want more information, and we would have deferred it to next month. Some people would have said, there's enough information, I can vote on it tonight, and we would have asked for a vote to make a charter change or not. Yeah. So you got the timeline?
Yes, but that doesn't clarify my point.
Okay.
My point is, if I had stood up and not given anything in paper, we would still be in the same position because we would have either voted yes or we would have voted to vote on it next time. See, because everyone's, clarify for me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
Everyone is going to be proposing language change. That's the point of this board. So everyone is going to have to propose language change. So all I'm asking is, and in the future, if we are going to have presentations and this is how we want to do it, then we need to establish a procedure that says everyone must propose to the county attorney the language that will be changed a week, 2 weeks before the meeting, so we can go through this, because that part was not established. Because it was established to submit a week prior so copies could be made.
Right.
Okay? I told Beth I didn't need the county to make copies for me. I would provide my own copies, and she said, okay, then you don't have to give it to me. And so I just want clarity for moving forward.
So do we have clarity now? I mean, we want, okay, I'm gonna hang on this just one more moment, then I'll get to you, Melissa. Your section is a good example. The language would be a charter change. You give it to staff a week before, it comes to the meeting, we discuss it. If at the end of the discussion we can vote on it, I'll ask for a vote. If we got to defer it for more information, we'll defer it and then vote on it at a prior meeting. Yeah. Some people, when we asked for items to be discussed, it was just because some people wanted to discuss them. It wasn't because they were posing a change. Something bothered about them, and they just wanted to discuss it here at the group. So there's going to be some topics that are going to come up that aren't going to require advanced work. They're just going to be for discussion at the group. Yeah. And there's going to be some really tough ones. When we go to look at the commissioners, that's going to take a lot of staff input and public comment and everything else like that. That'll probably go on for 2 meetings before we wrung everything out of it and we make a decision. And that may not even be individuals here on this board that make it. That might be all staff work, as we direct them to give us certain information, that kind of stuff. You know. So is that clear?
So the clarification would be, if we're going to propose changes to the charter itself,
yes,
someone must propose the language change and submit it to the staff a week before the meeting. If you're not going to propose a change in the language, then you can just show up and we'll discuss it. Is that what I'm understanding you're saying?
Not exactly. Because you could have an idea that I want to do something differently. You don't have to give me the language or give the group the language. You can tell the staff, after we've kicked it around here at our board, that we want to do X, Y, and Z, then the staff is directed to write the language that implements X, Y, and Z. So you can bring just an idea or a concept to this group in a report, of course, that justifies why you're proposing it, and then the staff will write the language.
So if we know the language we want, and we know that we want to change the language, then we have to submit the report to the staff a week before, so everybody can have it and look over it. It doesn't have anything to do with making copies. Is that what I'm hearing? Thank you.
I think we should get a reading from the actual staff on this.
No.
Is a week enough or not?
Yeah,
May I, Mr. Chair?
sure.
First of all, I like the format of your proposal, and I think if anybody would like to make a proposal, that they should do it in a particular format, on a form with specific items listed, just very similar to your proposal, 10 days prior to any of our meetings, because that gives staff time to run it through legal to make sure that before we even put our eyes on it, that it's valid. Okay, if it's not legal, why are we even bothering bringing it to the next agenda, right? So 10 days before the meeting.
And those are work days?
Those are business days, 10 business days before the meeting. And staff can come up with maybe a form similar to this, where members of this board would fill out the information as to the rationale, why the changes are necessary and the rationale behind it, and some detail to it. And that way, legal hopefully would have enough time to take a look at it, a few days to look at it. And then 1 week prior to the meeting, we would get a copy of it with our packet. And we would have a week to take a look at, just like we have a week to look at everything else, we would have a week to look at the proposal and noodle on it and ask staff for clarification or legal counsel for clarification if there's any question as to understanding the proposal or the rationale behind it. And that way, when we come to the meeting, we will have had a whole week to look at it and review it, and then whoever is going to present it, presents it. And the intention is probably to vote on it, because we've had enough time, it's been vetted, and we had enough time to read it as members and review it and ask questions if we need to. So the intent would be to vote on it at that meeting if it's on the agenda. However, we have the prerogative to table it if we need more information or want to discuss it further and bring more information back to the next meeting. So I think that's maybe where we're going with a process. 10 business days prior, we submit a form to staff, the legal counsel reviews it. If it looks legal, then it goes on the agenda a week prior when we get our meeting packet. We have that week to look at it. We come prepared to the meeting with the information already read, and maybe, well, obviously to hear the presentation, but maybe to vote on it that evening as well. So that would be my suggestion for a process.
And Chair, I think.
Mr. Taylor?
I won't assume y'all's brains are firing the way that mine is, but I also assumed that we were going to as well do some workshopping of some of these issues as well. So I think maybe that's where I'm getting tripped up. No issue getting a presentation, and if there's a motion and there's a second, well, then we have to follow that process, and then we vote. But I also thought, again, as we kind of identified last week or last meeting, kind of the issues we would like to learn a bit more about, workshop that so that we can really then put forward a formal presentation that then, should we get, the votes needed, it then triggers a process to where I think we then set public hearings, and then,
Then there's the final vote.
So I think maybe that's where some of us, but definitely me, we're assuming a little bit more workshopping some of these issues. Again, why I asked, what's the expectation for at least this meeting, maybe even next meeting? But again, if someone comes in and they do a presentation or they provide information and it does pass per the guidance of our legal staff muster, and there is a motion and there's a second, well, then we vote out in that time. But it sounds like we could also remand that issue to the next meeting as well, as we continue to noodle on these big ideas.
Right.
Chairman, I
Yes, ma'am.
would agree with Mr. Taylor, because that was totally my expectation, that we would receive the information in one meeting. Because for me, and I don't know other people out there, I'm a a multi-sensory processor. So to read and to hear the presentation is how I come to process information. And as Mr. Taylor was saying, I assumed that we would, and again, I want to just be clear, it's not about me. I want to be efficient and make sure everybody's on the same page. That we would come and present information, we would discuss it in a meeting, and then in a future meeting, vote on it after people had time to actually do it. So I had no expectation that we would be receiving information in one day and voting in the same day, even if I was given a written presentation 10 days before. I think that I personally want to have the opportunity to consider these matters a little bit more deeply than sitting around the table.
Noted. Dr. Collins?
I wanted to ask, if possible, so that we could move the discussion into the actual document itself, if that's what we're going to do. I don't want to make a motion unless you're ready for a motion, but I'd like to make a motion.
Well, let me see if there's any further discussion. Just stand by, Dr. Collins. Melissa?
One other item, I think it may have been in the first meeting we had, our organizational meeting, we talked about having one meeting a month, but then blocking out the second, or was it, it'd be like the fourth Tuesdays, potentially for workshops. In case we come up with a proposal that we're very interested in, but we're not going to sit here for 2 hours and workshop it the same night that it's on the agenda, but maybe we block that time out or schedule a workshop in between our monthly meetings for discussion of the proposals that we hear at the meetings, if we're not ready to vote on them and we want to ask questions and noodle and get some more information or research. Now, that would, potentially require 2 meetings a month, but it would be an option for workshop time.
Correct. I understand. Mr. Osh?
Yeah, I agree with everyone that I've heard here tonight, and I would just like to say one thing. When I've served on boards, always on the agenda at the end is new business and old business, and I think that gives us a way to help prepare for the agenda and what we're going to talk about next, at the next meeting. So I just want to throw that out there. But I really like the way Member Snively put the process down together. So I was wondering if she wanted to put that in a motion as to how we proceed. And if so, I would second it.
I could.
There's a motion on the floor for.
Oh, yes, you did. That's true.
I'm going to stand by Dr. Collins. Yes, ma'am.
Concerned about something else.
I just wanted to say, I think to your point about legal being able to have a look at it and us not wasting time in between, and the 10 days is a great idea. There's a lot of people here who've served on this board before. It's a year-long process, and we're all very busy people, and I want to come to every single meeting. I want to be here for every single meeting. For the people who've served on this before, is it necessary to try to block out extra time, or is a year enough time once a month? How does that work?
My estimation is once a month is going to be sufficient for our topics.
Okay.
The workshops may be internal to one of our meetings, and it depends what you define as a workshop,
Sure.
But I can see us digging into how many commissioners are there going to be. I can see us digging into that and getting a lot of diversity of opinions. You might call that a workshop, But I'm thinking we can do it all within the meetings we've got.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Collins, did you want to say something?
No, I did not say something. I mentioned I wanted to make a motion. And the reason I wanted to make it this way, because anybody can modify it if they so choose. What I think I've heard all of us saying, and what I was concerned about is if we go with a process, and it'll be clear, I agree with you. First of all, any proposals that's going to come before the board will go to the staff. And I wanted to make sure it gets to the staff so legal can review it before it even reaches us. So if we say it must be to the staff 2 weeks in advance of our meeting, and that's the regular meeting, 1 week staff get that to us. The third step would be, it would be presented at our meeting by the individual, whether it's a commissioner or whether it's one of us or someone else, someone even in the community. It would be presented at a meeting, and then the disposition of the vote could conceivably be at a future meeting when it's in its final form, if a workshop is required, or if other presenters are required, including community input. Because this way, we've had an opportunity to let the community know what we're doing. So I'm kind of proposing, I don't know if staff would want to modify it or someone here, but that we kind of list that out so we'll know what we're doing. And this, let's kind of, because really, I think if we did that, we would be hearing the presentation tonight.
Yeah.
So that's my motion.
I'm not sure I could write that down.
I wrote it, and I can give it to
So what are
staff
the
if they
key
need to.
elements? I think Mrs. Snively mentioned 10 days, submit material 10 days
I didn't say 10 days for
before.
one reason. I just said 2 weeks. If it's going to be to us for a week, it's the same thing, because she said 10
10
days.
business days
You know,
or 2
talking about
weeks.
business days. So 2 weeks has got to be to the
Okay.
staff.
So first
1
element.
week is going to get to us.
So first element, 2 weeks to staff, beforehand to staff. Second element was.
1 week to the board.
Well,
Oh, then-
vetted by
then
council.
it's- Yeah, the board packet is mailed a week at a time. And the third element of the
The third
motion,
element is presentation at a meeting.
presentation at the scheduled meeting, yeah.
And the fourth one is where we come up with a disposition or a vote
Yeah.
after we've done whatever it deemed appropriate. Additional presentation, whether it's going to be a workshop,
Yeah.
even if we have the county to put it in a final form, but
Yeah.
whatever that final
Sure, okay.
disposition is.
So the fourth step is disposition
And then
by
a vote,
whatever
yes.
means necessary.
Yeah,
yeah.
and that way we're not anticipating that just because you're presenting it, we got to vote on it. That's what I'm trying to get away from.
Okay, can,
I have a quick question. Julia,
Yes.
if it's a workshop proper, we can still vote, or are we just talking about workshopping as a verb? Because we gotta
Generally,
be
I
able-
don't think we vote at workshops.
Okay,
That-
I don't
that-
think we do either.
Yeah,
Okay.
you don't have to have quorum, but you can take official.
Right. So workshopping is a verb. It's just sort of something we're doing at a votable meeting.
And that's a
For
good point,
clarity.
yes. If you're literally at a workshop, that is not something you can take an action in.
Okay.
If you're just having a
Okay,
deeper
quick.
dive, then you can at a
Quick.
regular meeting.
let's go back to the motion. So we got a motion that had these four elements, you know. The 2-week notice, the 1 week mailing, meet on it, and the fourth element was a disposition.
Okay, 1 week or 2 weeks
2 weeks.
prior is the proposal,
2 weeks prior.
vetted by legal counsel.
Yeah.
Exactly.
1 week in the packet for members to review, on the agenda for presentation,
Right.
then disposition. So there's really 5, just because I threw
Yeah,
that
it
legal
is, 'cause
counsel
in that
in.
disposition, that's where you're gonna figure out, is this going to
Right.
workshop,
Right.
special presentation, community
Yeah.
intervention, whatever, but we don't vote until
That's
we get all that
that's a nice way to
squared
say
away.
it.
I'll second that motion.
Who was the second, please?
Mr.
Oh,
White.
Mr. White, thank you. Couldn't see you down there.
I do have a question that may muddy the waters even more. I know, y'all are welcome,
I may rule you out of order here.
But one thing, though, that I'm trying to also figure out, because again, I work in a world where there is a process, and maybe those that have served can opine of what you've done in the past, but knowing that there are various ideas out there, do we discuss beforehand kind of a ballpark of how many amendments are we willing to put out there? Because again, we get a presentation, and I may want to hear all the other presentations, so then I can then look at, all right, what are we truly looking at? Because I am not, if the document doesn't need to be amended, we make the vote, okay, 0. If we think it's 1 should go to the voters, 2, 3, again, whatever that number is that is ultimately agreed upon, it would be nice to know ultimately, all right, here are the 5 items, topics that have passed muster, and we are going to debate it, and we're gonna vote on it, you know, and either it lives or it dies. That's kind of what's still tripping me up. Again, if we have a presentation next month and we vote, so be it. But again, for me, and again, I would love to know how it was done 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but having a list of like, okay, here are the 5 items that we are gonna consider, and do we want all 5 to go to the voters? Do we want 1 to go to the voters? 0? And let's then vote on those items.
That's what,
Does that make sense? And I would love to hear how it was done in the past, to see if there is a blueprint we could also follow. I know that muddies a little bit.
No, I think I get it, though, if I may, Chairman. What Mr. Taylor is saying, we can go along and along over this. All of a sudden, we find ourselves at the end of the year with 12 amendments. Do we want to send 12 amendments? If I'm correct, what you're saying is, if we're going to establish that we should only have the people will accept 5 amendments, then maybe it's better if we hear everything and then we get to the end of the last 3 months and we say, these are all the amendments that have been proposed to us. There are 12. Do we adopt all 12, or do we say, okay, we only have 5 that we really want realistically the public to accept, because we don't want to load down the ballot with all these amendments, and then we narrow down before we accept for vote the 5 most important that the board takes into consideration. Am I narrowing this down for you?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
great, I understood.
And my question is, somebody who was on the board before, please tell me, because I thought I heard that once we get through this initial process, there is the final vote. And what you just said is what I thought was when we reach the final vote. We're gonna listen to all these. They're gonna be put over here like, these are for considerations. We took a disposition. We're gonna say, no, we don't want that. Or, yes, this is good. So we got all these. And the final vote is when we say this is where we go when we get to the end. Am I wrong? Somebody tell me about that final vote.
what I'm proposing is what we did 10 years ago. We all identified topics last month that we think we might want to discuss or change, possibly even change, you know? Each one of those topics has got to have its own legs. There's going to be a presentation on it. We're going to vote on it. If it doesn't get the supermajority, it stops there. We don't need to hold it open to the end in order to decide how many amendments. Each amendment by its own self has got to have its own legs. Yeah. We identified the sections that we're going to be discussing last month.
But I think that's why for me at least, I've been hyper-focused on the word workshop, because again, I want enough opportunity to get in the weeds on these topics to make sure we understand the ramifications.
You will. As we take up the topic, this group gets to decide how much detail do we want. Do we have sufficient information to make a vote? You know, on every one of these ones we identified last month. Take the number of commissioners, you know. That'll come up for discussion. We'll talk about as much as we want, get all the public comment, do any workshop you want to have in order to make a decision on do we want to change the number of commissioners. And then I'll ask for a vote and see if there's a supermajority on putting it forward to the citizens.
Mr. Chair?
Follow?
Mr. Chair,
Okay.
Jim, did you get the memo from March 12th that listed all the flagged items and the first ones that were up that Beth Cardenas sent out to all of us? It's stated March 12th. It has a list of all the items we're going to consider and the priority of the first 4. Did you get that? Did you see it?
I'm on that list. I would have received it, yes.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure, because all the flagged items were there, every single one of them outlined.
That doesn't
That
mean
doesn't answer
anything.
his question.
No,
That's not-
but it's what we're going to consider and how we're going to do it.
Well, not really, because again, what I'm trying to parse through and for clear expectations
Sure.
is each meeting, if there is going to be a formal action on something, because again, at the end of the day,
Yes.
my preference.
Yes, at each meeting. If
Not
we can get through a topic, if we can completely discuss whether there should be 9 commissioners, if we can everybody's heard everything they want to hear, I will ask, are you ready to vote?
So
And
I think,
and if we get a supermajority, then we're going to turn it into language that'll be in the charter, and we'll go through the public hearings and so on.
last thing, I'll stay, and then I will let my voice rest.
Sure.
Is
Thank you.
My thought, and maybe even recommendation, is to receive presentations which are workshops. Some of these things are brand-new information for me. Some of these items I know some about. But either way, we want to receive that information via, workshop so that, I can then, all right, we got Ms. Hall's idea. We've got Ms. Snively's idea. We've got mine. We've got others, that we, run on. And then at some point in the calendar year, look to be like, okay, we've received these presentations or we've looked at this stuff. It's time to whittle this down to a digestible number that we will put forward to, on the ballot.
Okay, I was on twice the other times. Honest to God, I can't really remember, but I will tell you, it wasn't anywhere near 12. It was probably, I think we did county auditor when I was on. We shot down county mayor, and maybe one other. And you get these random ideas, but the document is a solid document, and it should be very hard to change it at this point, honestly. Maybe 3, maybe 2 in one charter review, maybe another. I think the second time I did it, I think it was like 0. But I know the last charter review was 0. I wasn't on that one, but I happen to know that. So I think we're chasing our tail a little bit on this. There's not going to be that many. And to Art's point earlier, you need a supermajority. And those supermajorities are very hard to get. And I've read your stuff, so it's a hard one. It's a heavy one.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and there's been a second. It had dealt with how we're going to be handling these items procedurally. Is there any more discussion of that? I'll call for the vote. You ready? Can we vote on it, Dr. Collins?
Oh, I was just going to say, I called for the question, but then I can hear some of your presentation. Yeah, I was saying I called, yeah. I was
Okay,
calling
yes.
for the question, and that's all.
Okay, fine. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, let me take you back now so that we discuss. We could probably, I don't know if we can still get out of here by 8. Do you want to hear Mrs. Hall's report tonight?
Even if she just summarized.
Or would you like to defer the whole thing till next month?
I would like to hear it tonight.
I'd like to hear something.
If I could just take one moment to go back to the previous votes, just so we're all clear, that vote in action for the rule change, that's something that will change the rules of procedure. So and that's fine, I just want to make sure that's clear for the record.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Thank you. Would you like to hear her report tonight?
Normally, I would say yes, we should entertain it since we're here and she's ready. I think the only hesitation I have is legal counsel hasn't had a chance to review it and vet it to make sure that it passes muster for us to even consider it.
And if I
Agreed.
could clarify that issue for this, because this was actually a document that contained actual proposed changes versus just having a discussion over the concepts. So my only comment, and again, I spoke with Mary Helen about this, is if you start to go down the path of saying these are actual changes we want to make, I, at this moment, have not been able to digest it well enough to know if that is something that can occur. So if it's really just talking about the concepts, I think that's one thing, but when you're talking about actual language, that's another thing. And I think that's a distinction between kind of having a workshop, workshopping as a verb, of a concept of a change versus actual language, which you will be looking at it and identifying whether or not that's the appropriate language. So that's the distinction, and at this point, no, we haven't had a chance to look at this particular language to determine if that language does is legally sufficient, and also whether or not it fits into what other things you're doing. So that is the distinction here.
Just as, we've actually spent longer talking about whether I should talk or not than it would have taken me to actually talk.
That's
So-
what happens when you get 14 people together.
Yeah, and so I never, ever came here with an expectation that this would be adopted and voted on today. I actually thought, as it was defined, that I was giving a presentation on the concept of the amendment that I'm proposing. And so I think that it would, just because we've spent all this time invested in this, it might be beneficial for people to actually hear why I think this is important, and then legal counsel can also hear why I think this is important, because I am myself a lawyer, and those kind of things are beneficial rather than the very bare bones that I've really provided in these two things, because, and then I'll be quiet. Whatever the board wants to do, I'm fine. I mean, I'm going to do the exact same presentation next month. It's not going to change.
I would like to make a presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we got, anybody that doesn't like the idea?
The only thing I would say is maybe do a 30,000 foot and then dive into it with the actual
Yeah,
presentation.
I like that when you said concepts.
Yeah.
Without getting into specific language. We agree?
I agree.
How long,
with
5
something.
minutes?
Not even.
Not even?
Not even.
So let's go.
Because again, I didn't know I was making.
Let's
I didn't
do
know
it.
I was making like an argument. I was just making a presentation.
Hey, we're learning. We're
Look,
learning
if I'm
here.
making
We're
opening
learning.
statements and argument, we're gonna be here a little while. So I'm
Yeah,
just
well, I know you're-
presenting to you
I
the
know you're-
concept of what I'm proposing.
Okay, so what should we be looking at as she prepares her presentation here? What is the document? Was it put on everybody's desk tonight?
Do I need to go up there, or am I good right here?
I think you're probably good. I think you're
Okay,
good
great.
there.
So the documents that I have presented to you today are a 30,000-foot summary with some details for each proposed amendment, which include proposed language that I'm obviously open to change or vet or whatever. This was just my idea on clarifying what's happening. Now, I'm sure everybody understands I am a constitutional attorney, so my focus in reviewing the charter was to ensure that it's compliant with both the Florida Constitution and the U.S. Constitution, especially in light of the Florida's longstanding commitment to home rule. Because Florida is a home rule state, and that means that charter counties like Hillsborough are granted broad authority to govern their own affairs, but only to the extent that they are consistent with U.S. Constitution, the Florida Constitution, and constitutionally established general law. Now, this framework empowers counties, but also defines clear boundaries that have to be respected. In the course of reviewing the charter, I found that the current wording in sections 2.01 and 9.01, much like the caller who came in before us, although likely drafted with good intentions, create internal conflict and constitutional ambiguity. Even more concerning, if left addressed, these inconsistencies could expose the county to potential legal challenges. So preventing unnecessary and costly lawsuit is one of the most important motivations behind my proposal. The clearer the charter is, the easier it is for the Board of County Commissioners and all departments to govern within lawful bounds, and the harder it is for outside entities to successfully challenge the county decisions in court. So my purpose in proposing these amendments is to ensure constitutional compliance, eliminate internal charter conflicts, provide clear guidance for the Board of County Commissioners, and most critically, to protect Hillsborough County taxpayers from the expense of avoidable litigation. Section 2.01 the First Amendment addresses that section which defines the powers of local self-government. Now, my proposed revision affirms that Hillsborough County's home rule authority must be exercised only to the extent that it does not conflict with the U.S. Constitution, the Florida Constitution, or constitutionally established general law. This is not new. It simply codifies what Florida courts have already required, ensuring the charter does not suggest the county has greater authority than it lawfully does. Importantly, my proposed amendment also reaffirms that zoning and land use regulations are core functions of local government under home rule. Florida courts have consistently recognized this, including the cases of Lake Worth v. Wright and Phantom of Brevard v. Brevard County. This amendment acknowledges those rulings and affirms that state preemption must be clear and narrowly tailored, especially when it interferes with the county's ability to govern in the best interest of its communities. Once Section 2.01 is clarified, Section 9.01 must be brought into alignment, and that's why you have two sections. As it's currently written, Section 9.01 implies that no state law applies in Hillsborough County unless approved by referendum or meeting specific expectations. This reading is in direct conflict with the requirements of 2.01, and it also misrepresents how home rule functions under the Florida Constitution. Under home rule, counties do not have the authority to reject general law unless the Constitution or the law itself makes such an exemption. The proposed amendment to Section 9.01 resolves this constitutional conflict by retaining the county's ability to use referendum and special laws, but also affirming that the general law does not apply when it's constitutionally valid and properly established. I'm sorry, that general law does apply when it's constitutionally valid and properly established. Like the amendments in Section 2.01, this revision expressly protects local control over zoning and land use and makes clear that the legislature may only preempt this authority through a clearly expressed and narrowly tailored general law consistent with judicial precedent and the limits of state power under home rule. These two amendments are designed to work together. They do not change in intent or spirit of the charter. They simply clarify it, making it legally consistent and bring into full alignment with the constitutional standards and established case law. This is a nonpartisan, practical, and proactive update to our governing framework, and it is especially important at a time when litigation risk is not just theoretical, it's real, frequent, and expensive. By adopting these changes, the board can fortify the charter against challenge, protect our authority under home rule, and save Hillsborough County taxpayers from potentially millions in future legal costs. These amendments offer simple, meaningful clarity, and they reflect our shared duty to govern lawfully, responsibly, and transparently. And that is the end of my presentation.
Anyone have any questions?
I have one quick question for Julia. Talk to me about, and I'm going to say apart from the CIT matter that happened, have we ever been challenged under the current writing of the charter at all? Has the county been?
I don't believe so.
Or
And in fact, I was able to briefly speak with Mary Ellen, although she's been pretty out of pocket today, and she did make that point to me that there has been no litigation challenging our authority under the charter to act in a manner consistent with state law and constitution, and that we are obligated to do that, notwithstanding anything else. And my understanding is this language, which I think has been in there for quite some time, and the existing language that's been in the charter for quite some time, and Mary Helen has, as she's mentioned, been through this more than probably anybody in the state of Florida in terms of charter review boards, has never found fault or problem with the existing language.
Okay.
But that being said, I mean, certainly from a policy perspective, if you want to talk about it, that's fine, but there's other things that came up that even though I haven't had a lot of chance to look at this, I really would need to, the word of the day is noodle. I would need to noodle from a legal perspective.
Sure.
Okay,
I don't want to
thank
get
you.
into that whole thing. I just wanted to ask
Yeah.
that quick question.
Any other thoughts or comments before we close this item?
I guess my question would be,
Yes, Mr.
the
White.
other charter counties in the state of Florida, do we have our language and our charter consistent with the other charter counties, or are they consistent with the proposed language that was mentioned in this meeting?
I haven't had a chance to look at any other charters. I can just tell you, especially with my conversation with Mary Ellen, she stated that the language we currently have is legally sufficient, and whether or not it's in line with other charters, that's something I don't have the answer to right now.
Would, but that's a good point of what these discussions are all about, because I think I would take that as a request to look at some counties and say, is our current language consistent with what you found in maybe the 3 or 4 adjoining counties, something like that, and let us know at the next meeting, that kind of discussion. That's kind of, and I bet that line of thinking comes up a lot when we start looking at our charter. We'll be asking you what's in other counties' charters. So, thank you, Mr. White. Any other thoughts, questions for Ms. Hall? I really appreciate it. I know
If I could
I know
address
you're
the
borderline
questions.
genius on this, so
No,
thank you.
no.
Yeah.
If I could address the questions, I think our responsibility is to not look at what's happened in the past, but to look what to prevent in the future. I would also suggest to legal counsel that I don't think you can deny that 2.01 and 9.0 contradict each other, which creates a problem that maybe has not been a problem in the past, but could be in the future.
Yeah, I didn't want to go down that path.
Yeah,
I just
no,
wanted the
I
board
just
to
wanna
know
say
that.
I-
I don't want to get into a litigation here either.
Right.
I just wanted to, just to
No, no,
understand
Right.
if we'd had an issue.
Yeah.
Thank you, though. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm just making the closing point
Yeah.
in that.
Sure.
And my goal is to prevent what's going to happen in a future as we enter into a more litigious society every day. I mean, we spend $1 billion in taxpayer money just in the United States for unconstitutional arrests in counties. So that often directs back to county commissioners who are creating ordinances that are unconstitutional. And that's one thing that we need to look at. And I would also suggest to legal counsel as they review this, we are already in violation of this with Hillsborough County's 5-day waiting period to buy firearms. The state has already legislated by general law that there is only a 3-day waiting period. And Hillsborough County, contrary to home rule, is already imposing 5 days. And it's just a matter of time before a gun rights organization brings a suit against Hillsborough County about this. And I think if we clarify for the county the limits of home rule the way it is in here, then we can prevent something like that in the future. Thank you, and I'm finished.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead
Appreciate
and
it.
bring all these things forward and to ensure that if,
Yeah.
when we come back, we can properly address the comments in
Yeah.
a manner consistent
Pretty-
with law.
Exactly,
Thank you.
exactly. So I think we're all better informed for knowing what we're going to be talking about next month, and thank you very much for doing the presentation.
It was a lot of work. I could tell.
Yeah, and it was professionally done, too. Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda, Section 408. This has to do with ordinance and resolution discussion. Mr. White, you initiated a discussion on this one. What were you thinking, sir?
I stepped away from this issue, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any additional comments related to this.
So that one's dealt with then?
That's correct.
Thank you, sir. 9.09, a planning discussion. It's funny, we heard something tonight from our public comment about that. So what are your thoughts on this,
Yeah,
Karen?
when I brought this forward, I didn't have a particular item in mind. But, we all live in the county. I have seen some things going on in my neighborhood. There is a restaurant in my neighborhood who recently in their parking lot had 5 affordable homes built in the parking lot. And it seems to have, you know, none of the requirements that had gone forward that, you know, for a, you know, housing complex. I just today just happened to be on an email chain where Sun City and Wamama are having some issues. In looking at, you know, how does this relate to the charter? Well, the charter, if you think about the city of Temple Terrace, the city of Tampa, and the city of Plant City, they have smaller populations, obviously, than we do at the county, and they're able to make their own planning decisions within the confines of their smaller populations. So I don't have a solution. I wanted to bring it forward just to see if this is something that the charter could address, because I believe one thing that we might be missing is we're going through and we flag items in the charter. There might be things that need to be added to the charter. Right. But anyhow, this actually is in the charter, and I think it's just a mention that we use the Planning Commission. So I just wanted to throw out there that, you know, possibly, I've heard some people mention maybe planning districts, because if you look at, you know, Plant City, let's say, has 30,000 people, Temple Terrace another 30,000, they get to make their decisions, you know, at the more local level. The unincorporated county is left with about 1.1 million people, and we've got commissioners who actually reside within the cities, or, you know, not as many as we used to. But it just, you know, you want people making planning decisions, experiencing what you're experiencing. And I know some of these things that I might be seeing are because of some of the laws that were passed at the state legislature. So I just wanted to open it up, and I was hoping maybe members of the public wanted to weigh in to, if they had any suggestions on what I'm perceiving is kind of being very remote from that planning process. So that's all I had. That was my intention, and I really didn't even know I was going to be, you know, proposing this until about 10 days ago. But anyhow, that was why I brought it forward, and that's all I had to say about it.
Any other thoughts on this topic? Go ahead, Melissa.
I would agree. Absolutely. I mean, speaking from someone who lives in Lithia, eastern Hillsborough County, lots of growth, lots of development, and some of it is, it would be better, it would be more efficient and better for the community, sometimes considering the amount of growth that we've had, if that happened in a more local, at a more local level. You know, we have felt for many years a little out of the loop in eastern Hillsborough County. And to have, as others have felt in other parts of the unincorporated portions of Hillsborough County. So I think that is a great concept that we could look into further to see, you know, if it could be something we could make it into a reality for our county.
Yeah. I just wanted to add, you know, I live in Carrollwood. I've heard of people wanting to incorporate Carrollwood. I've heard of people wanting to incorporate Brandon. I'm not necessarily condoning that because I know there's pros and cons, but it just seems like something needs to happen. I think ideally what I think could happen, I don't think would ever happen, and I would like to see the county split. I think we are big. We've got one school board. We have different parts of the county that grew at different points in time, and so your part of the county has much different needs than my part of the county. So I'm not saying, again, I'm proposing that. I would entertain it if someone else did.
I'll draw the line for you.
Yeah. But just, you know, this is our opportunity as citizens on this board to express some of the things that we're thinking. I would love for members of the public maybe to weigh in if they had ideas that could solve it. When I mentioned that when we were going through on our first meeting, I thought planning needed to just be opened up if someone had ideas. And again, I don't have the solution. I just know that there is some issues bubbling up out there.
Could I, Chairman?
Ms. Hall?
I also agree, and I think that we are coming out of the perfect example of why this is a problem. I live in Brandon, and Hurricane Milton put 3 feet of water in my front yard. It was not because a river flooded. It was not because we had waves coming on shore. It was because our infrastructure could not handle the water. And now I look back and I'm still watching the board authorize more building and yet still not deal with the infrastructure. And this is the way that, I mean, if you open this up to public comment, we will be here all day. All day, I guarantee you, because we have people 2 weeks, a month before the Hurricane Milton hit, in the Hillsborough County Board meeting, lobbying for housing, supplemented housing. The next time after Hurricane Milton, because there is no infrastructure, those same people are back at the board meeting saying they need new housing because the subsidized housing they were in flooded and they have no place to go. We need to have a way to, and a planning committee would do that in the local areas for the people to say, look, please do not put any more houses in concrete until you fix our drainage systems. And that can only happen at the local level. And that's a problem because we now have in Tallahassee legislation being proposed to remove local county supervision over zoning so that it is state law that we must change our farmland into multiple housing facilities, which pulls us even further out of local governance. I think that addressing this would be so valuable to the people of Hillsborough County. You could change lives with something like this.
Mr. White?
Well, where I understand the planning commission, with all the municipalities in the county makes up the board of the planning commission. They have, an executive director? I would love to just get a report or get some sort of presentation from the executive director, is that the position, of the planning commission, so we can become more educated of what's going on, some of the topics that were mentioned here today. And in the past, we have had the planning leader come before the charter board. I know a little bit, but I have no idea about all the serious complex issues that has been mentioned here, Mr. Chair. That's what I would rather do, just have the leader of that group come here.
Yeah, I keep rereading this language in this charter. I mean, wow.
Yeah, well, isn't this state law? This is not county, this is state law.
Yeah, it's a special, I hate to interrupt, but yeah,
please.
the planning commission, and it's in the charter, but the planning commission is a state law that created it, and so the charter wouldn't have the authority to not, to either get rid of it or change its makeup. And I will also say, and I think there's, having the planning commission folks, maybe the county planning folks would be a really good idea to talk through some of these things, because I know the frustration, and we are limited by state law in very many respects. But this particular section is related directly to that the state law that created the planning commission.
So it's almost a question of how they do their job.
Well, whether or not there's opportunities to tweak the language or deal with the language in a different way, I would think that you would want to hear from them first. And, like I said, this is highly regulated, and I think you pointed that out on the state level.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that you're saying may be things that we can't do because we're preempted by state law. But I think the inviting the planning commission folks and the planning folks from the county would probably be a good, valuable exercise.
I would like to ask legal counsel to also come up with a proposal or the feasibility of a proposal to create subcommittees at the different levels that could offer advice and influence to the main body. Because I think the people are frustrated they're not being heard, and it's because there's just too much geography for the Planning Commission to handle on their own.
And you're saying at the county level to do subcommittees with the
Subcommittees
plan?
for Lithia, Brandon, that kind of thing. So we have subcommittees so that we have actual people who have access and influence to the main planning committee. Because people are coming to the county board meetings and they're voicing their concerns, but they're not feeling heard. And it's just simply because there's too much geography to handle all at one time. And if it may not be feasible, but it's something that legal counsel could tell us whether we could propose within the language of the law subcommittees that would give reports and input to the main planning board. So as Mr. Oakes says, we have more local governance in what's happening.
My suggestion, and you know, that's part of what I think maybe we can have as the legal analysis, not drafting the language per se, till we get an action, because I understand that that has been the previous direction, is legal doesn't start drafting language until there's a motion and an action to proceed forward. But what you're asking is really the legal research, and if you're going to have the Planning Commission folks and the Hillsborough County folks come and talk about those items, as part of that conversation, we can come back on what your limitations would be in the charter context as to what you could put in the charter versus in ordinance or in planning commission, the Hillsborough County comp plan or those kinds of things. So that would probably be a good thing to dovetail with that presentation.
So there's a consensus. We'd like to have the representative from the county planning commission come here.
As well as county staff, right?
Well,
Both.
yeah. Well, yeah.
They are, they are
work
sets
together.
of thing, they're separate. You have the planning commission staff and you have the Hillsborough County planning staff. And they are completely separate entities. So, because the planning commission is a district that is set up by state law.
Chairman, and they should come prepared to inform us of what the limitations are on what we could do in amending the charter. Because otherwise, it just becomes entertainment, because if they don't tell us we can do something, then there's really no point in
Or whether
using-
you can do
Or whether
something.
we can do,
That's
what
the
we can
more-
do and whether we can do it. There
Right.
would be no point in even having the presentation
Well, I hope
if we
the
don't know that.
presentation will give options as to what we could do, and then legal would decide if that's feasible or not. Yeah. I mean,
If you want us to research that issue and bring that back before you invite those folks, that's fine. I didn't know if that was your desire to kind of hear what the process is right now, or whether or not
What's the
you can.
consensus? I would normally hear the presentation and then come up with it, but you want to flip it around and have, I'm not sure what you're saying.
I would like, Mr. Chairman, I would like to hear the presentations first.
Yeah.
What they do now.
Okay.
Do you know they don't exist?
And even in that presentation, they may be able to tell us some things that they're seeing that they would recommend, which would then strengthen our position on where we want to go. So
Yeah,
I would like to hear them, because I'm one of these people that see a different set of systems, because the same problems they're having in the county, having the same problems in the city. And then we start looking at different entities within both, with all of the citizens, and what are we doing? You know, where are they going? I've heard people say, do a boundary line, and outside of that boundary line, it's not Hillsborough County Schools. It's crazy. So we need
Okay.
to hear what they're seeing, the problems they're encountering, and I would love to hear the presentation from
And
the
Mr. Chair, some of
and
those,
staff.
some of those communities we're talking about, especially in South County, have their own comprehensive development plans that were done years ago.
Yeah, and as a sideline, I chair the Plant City Planning Board, yeah. So I can comment on some of this, but I'm not. Because even in our little city, we can't make everybody happy. Go ahead.
Just a point of clarity, we are not the County Board of Commissioners.
Yeah.
Our purpose is to amend the charter.
Right.
So we should have.
As needed.
As needed, right. And if the presentation isn't about amending the charter, it's outside the scope of our review, which is why it would be important to know whether we can actually amend the charter to do what we want to do before we have some how does the planning committee work presentation, because that's something that commissioners do. That's not within the scope of what we do.
I agree, but until we hear a presentation, we don't know how the charter might be amended, in what ways. And I don't expect the staff to figure out how many different ways the charter could be amended without having heard from the planning people.
Right, but I'm understanding from legal counsel that it may not even be an option
That's
to
correct.
amend the charter
That's correct.
in this matter. So we should find out if it's even an option to amend the charter in this manner before we spend our board time hearing
But
from
we
the.
don't know the manner in which we're going to amend the charter.
But we don't know whether we can, no matter what manner it is.
Well, we know we can. We just don't know what we are allowed to do, you know. So we're saying that we can amend it.
Is it possible to just go ahead and do the planning commission and the county planning staff? Will they come together?
I think we can ask them, and I believe the Planning Commission is already on deck to give a presentation. And I think that's really the point. I mean, there may be something you can do, or there may be something you can't do, but until I have more information about what it is you're trying to do, it's hard for me to give that parameter. That being said, what I can do is at least maybe do an outline as to, because there have been attempts in the past that I'm aware of to amend charters for different zoning and planning items. I haven't looked at that issue in a long time. And I will just be candid by trade. I've been land use lawyer for 25 years, so that is an area that I am very familiar with, but I just can't recall what those limitations were in those particular cases, and I'd be happy to pull those up. But I also think, if there's value in you hearing from what they are currently doing, such as the plans that are in the comprehensive plan and some of the other things that are being done. That's your policy decision. I'm happy to give you a big picture parameter, a small picture parameter, whatever y'all want.
Julia, do they already have some of those citizen kinds of groups that work up through the planning commission? No,
Yeah, I
no,
don't
no, I'm
think they
not
have
talking about the board.
Specific, they don't
I'm talking about who
have,
work
I
up
don't
into there.
believe, and that
Okay.
is maybe a question for them.
Okay.
Any specific, like, say, citizen advisory board or anything like
That's
that.
what
They
I'm
may, but not that I'm aware of. And there's some tricky nature to some of that because you have due process considerations and those kinds of things, which are inherent in the land use process. I don't want to go off on a tangent.
no. I don't want
I
you
could
to.
bore
I'm
y'all,
sorry.
but, I don't want to go off on that tangent. But that's why I didn't know if that's something you wanted to do together, or you wanted me to just separately give you, hey, here's your limitations, due process limitations, those kinds of things, which I could even do maybe in a written report for your next meeting, a written kind of just analysis for your next meeting, and then, you can go on from there, however y'all want to handle it, but I'm happy to provide that level of, big picture, or, hey, what you specifically want to do, you can do or you can't do.
Okay, so we'll hear a presentation next month. That's, everybody agrees? Okay. Thank you.
Will that presentation be from, you said here a presentation?
From the planning commission and
And the
planning staff, yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
But it's just going to be on planning issues. We're not going to talk about demographics or anything else like that. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So that one will continue on. We'll keep 909 open. There was a request for a written report, and Mrs. Mandel can deliver it, although I think Mary Frances wrote it. It was in regards to the creation of the county attorney position. Yeah.
And yes, Mary Helen did provide just a kind of written statement as to what occurred and then the backup materials. And I like, for the purposes of the record, I'll go ahead and just read her written statement and then from there kind of give a little bit of the background. So this is for the statement that she wrote for the record to give context to the backup. the section of the charter is Article 6, County Attorney, until an amendment, I'm sorry, Article 11, County Attorney, until an amendment to the county charter pertaining to Article 6 was approved by the voters in November 2004. The county attorney, per the charter, was hired, evaluated, and fired by the county administrator. And the last county administrator hired by the county administrator was Renee Lee in the fall of 2004. The Board of County Commissioners decided to proceed forward with a change to the charter and set a public hearing to consider proposed ordinance on January 7th, 2004, with the public hearings taking place on February 4th, 2004. A copy of the minutes were attached, and when the board discussed the proposal, the minutes for the board meeting are also attached. What that charter amendment in essence did is change the nature of the hiring and firing of the county attorney, where instead of having the county attorney hired and fired directly by the county administrator, that was an action of the Board of County Commissioners and clarified that process. And so that is what is in the backup describing that process. The county actually hired outside counsel from Holland and Knight, H. Hamilton Rice, but he was well known in the world as Chip Rice, and he was a very well known and well knowledgeable local government lawyer, and he prepared the ordinance in a manner consistent with other jurisdictions at that time, and that has been what has been in place since the time of this charter change. And as it says in the charter, the county attorney is hired and fired by an action of the supermajority of the Board of County Commissioners. So I can hope to answer any other questions you might have about that process, mostly from my recollection and also from my conversations with Mary Helen.
Mr. White, did you initiate that request? I think you did.
I did.
Are you
and-
satisfied with the information, sir?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we got, next item of business is to talk about next meeting planning. And we've already pulled two topics now. We've got what was item 7, the sections 201 and 901, and then also a planning commission, our planning staff report. I am going to be absent next month, and Julie has graciously agreed to manage the meeting. And this, I have to apologize, but this was done by friends long before the planning board was created, and I can't get out of it, so. But I am adjusting my schedule to all the other meetings. My wife will nod yes. What else? We've got the topics, I think Kim mentioned the topics that that we were going to pick up. We can put a couple of those into next month's meeting as well. Is that okay with you all, or is there something specifically you'd like to sink your teeth into next month? Especially something we said we were going to, is there any one of those topics we said we were going to discuss you'd like to bring up next month? Yes.
I'd like to bring up single-member districts.
Was that something you had highlighted back?
Well, I think I was originally.
Oh, that was the big banana, oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's the 800-pound gorilla in the room, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that, I'd rather not start that next month. I'd like to be here for that. Julie says, don't do that, yeah. But yeah, that is one, I prefer a future meeting for that. Any other little other parcels and bite-sized pieces? We'll come up with some based on the list items that you wanted to look at. Yes.
Do we know yet whether or not the proposal to move the fire chief, do we know how that's coming along?
I know he's requested some information. I know he's waiting on it. I think he maybe had a conversation with you, Art?
Yes, he'd prefer another month or two.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But he's on top of it.
Yeah.
When you say he, who's on top of it?
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris Bowles.
That was
Commissioner Bowles.
Okay.
Is it possible on the flagged list, one on deck first was the last item beginning the review of demographics data? Would it make sense from the Planning Commission in preparation for discussions on Article 9? Would it make sense to add that?
Well, the
Next.
planning commission here is talking about land and zoning and those
Okay,
issues, not demographics.
Okay, but it's the same committee, so, same commission.
Well, different people. we'll come up with something, because there's some items on the, that we'll talk about when we do our pre-board planning meeting. Yes, Melissa, do you have something?
Are we back on section 9? Is that what we were just talking about? About planning,
I
the
hope I'm
planning
on section
commission?
11, next
Planning
month
commission.
meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just thought we were talking about the planning commission still and presenting, but I would encourage members to visit the planning commission website, and I'm looking at lots of Florida statute that dictates what local planning agency means, and how they operate is all state statute. So maybe to prepare us for the next
Okay.
meeting, some of that can either be provided
So maybe
to
in our
us,
meeting material,
or-
you could provide some resources of where we could go to prepare ourselves for the planning commission work? Okay, that's a good idea.
And I'm sorry, Ms. Snively, I misspoke. I meant Article 4, not, sorry,
Okay, thank you.
on the list,
On the list.
which we all have.
Thank you.
All right, well, we're getting near the end. Is there any other business to bring before the,
I have a question. Do we have any
yes.
county commissioners coming in to see us scheduled?
no,
We've sent the invitation and.
we have sent, and we've had a couple of them express interest. Commissioner Miller and Commissioner Bowles. They want to come in when their topic is on the agenda, of course. Yeah. I don't think there's been any other responses besides those two commissioners.
I have a memo from Commissioner Miller that says she plans on attending the May 13th meeting.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's still accurate. That was from February 24th.
She may want to roll that, yeah.
She may want to.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Cohen has indicated that he would like to come and speak.
Oh, great, great.
I believe that Commissioner Cepeda may be here next month,
Oh, cool.
but I don't believe that she's going to speak. I think she just wants to come and watch.
She was here earlier.
She was here earlier, but she left, and she might be coming back next year.
Okay, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful, yeah. And maybe we'll get some real people here making public comments, you know.
I got one thing, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, Mr. White?
Is it possible we can change the rules and create a chaplain, like the county commission? Our gentleman, excellent prayer. I would love to actually officially have him as our board chaplain.
Sure.
So,
Would you accept that responsibility, Mr. Coons? You get a big medal.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I
Do I
think
need
that
to
was
make-
a motion.
I'd like to
from
make that as a
Mr.
motion
I second it.
That Mr. Coons be appointed as the board chaplain.
for the Charter Review Board of 2025.
Wow.
Do you have a funeral coming up in your family? Is this-
No, hope not. I think he's a notary too, so he does marriages.
Ah.
So we have a motion for Mr. Coons to be a chaplain. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Roche. Any discussion of the motion? We all understand it? I think so, yeah, I'm sure. It'll be skylighted on the side of the building, yeah. All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Hey, good suggestion, Mr. White. Anything else? Karen, were you trying to get my attention?
I was just trying to recap. So, Member Hall's issue, she was going to submit to legal and go through the process we voted on, and we'll hear it next month?
Yes, that's going to be
Okay.
on the agenda for next month.
Okay, very good.
And we'll track, if we can get if we can get to the point where we want to make an amendment, we'll call for the vote. If we don't, we'll can either continue it or what have you. Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for being here. Good night.